What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. These are my full card breakdown and predictions for UFC Vegas 64. We have Marina Rodriguez going against Amanda Lemos.
I need all the wins, yeah. Harder than all it is. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
And we are back for another full card breakdown and prediction video this week, breaking down UFC Vegas 64. We have a 12-fight card. We're supposed to have 13 fights, but we did lose the Maxime Grishin-Jailton Almeida fight. I don't think Almeida is going to stay on the card here. So 12 fights as of now. We'll see what happens throughout the rest of the week. But yeah, this card, kind of like last week. You know, last week's card was pretty sketchy. I think this week's card is probably even sketchier. Had a winning week last week, kept it short and sweet, and I think that's going to be the case here. Right now I have two bets, actually three bets, I think. One pretty big bet as well. And I don't really see myself having much action on this card, but it should be interesting. A lot of interesting fights, but kind of a low-level card as a whole, I'd say. But yeah, looking forward to talking it over as always. Next week we have UFC 281. That's going to be a phenomenal card, so can't wait for that. But yeah, guys, before we get started, if you guys can please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are not already. Do appreciate all the support. If you do want extra content or if you do want to support me more, be sure to check out dfsbythenumbers.com. Tons of written content on there, early bets, early access, all that good stuff. Just a ton of content on dfsbythenumbers.com, so check that out if you have not already. And other than that, going live Friday, as always, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, Saturday, 1 hour prior to the prelims for Best Bet. And yeah, guys, I think that's about it. So I say we get into it. And yeah, let us start with probably the 1-800-GAMBLER, not Fight of the Night, the 1-800-GAMBLER fight of the decade. I mean, this is bad. This is real bad. We have Ramona Pascual going against Timires Vidal. We will start with Vidal here. Vidal, she is 24 years old, 5'5". She has 6-1 and 5-0 in her last 5 fights. Ramona Pascual, she is 34 years old, 5'7", with a 66-inch reach. She is 6-4 and 3-2 in her last 5 fights. We take a look at the line. Timires Vidal opened up -235 for some reason. She's now -139. And Ramona Pascual opened up +200, and she is currently +119. So yeah, this is probably one of the lowest level fights of the year. I went and unfortunately spent my time watching Timires Vidal. I watched her entire career, and I came out of it like wondering, you know, what is she good at? You know, she's a BJJ brown belt for what it's worth, but I don't think she has good wrestling offensively and defensively. I've seen her taken down easily multiple times. You know, her record's very sketchy, a lot of low-level wins, and she even had a win against Eileen Perez. If you go back and watch that fight, it was a fight where Eileen Perez was dominating the entire fight, but she landed a illegal knee to the head, and she got disqualified. So, you know, Vidal got a disqualification win over Eileen Perez. But, you know, other than that, she had a heel hook win. Just low-level stuff for Vidal. Her striking's not good. She loads up one big shot at a time that just hits air. It's not great. And then you go to the other side of Pascual, and you're just very underwhelmed. A fighter that I'm curious to see make 135. She has not made 135 in a couple years. She hasn't done it yet in the UFC. She's been fighting at like 145. But you know, she's not much better. So this is a weird, tough fight to call. But I just see no reason why Vidal should be the favorite. I think Pascual, she has that UFC experience. She's been there. I think Pascual should get it done, but could you really have a ton of confidence in her? I think her striking is probably better. Her ground game scares me, but I think she should be able to stuff the takedowns. I think she can get takedowns if she wants to as well, but she's going to have to, you know, mind her P's and Q's on the mat, you know, not get heel hooked, which is absolutely a possibility here in such a low-level fight, not get that arm bar from guard loss there. But yeah, Pascual should go out here and win this fight, but I have no confidence in this fight. Give me Pascual as the dog. I actually don't know why she's the dog. I feel like this should be a straight pick'em because I feel like neither fighter deserves to be favored in this matchup. So give me Pascual to win. I'll say Pascual wins a greasy decision, and we should definitely move on. All right, we have Jake Hadley going against Carlos Candelario. We have Jake Hadley, who is 26 years old, 5'7" with a 68-inch reach. He is 8-1, and he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Carlos Candelario, he is 31 years old, 5'8", with a 68-inch reach. He is 8-2. and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here. Jake Hadley, decent sized favorite, opened at -250. He went all the way down to -275. He is now back to -245. And then Carlos Candelario opened up +210, went all the way up to +235. He is back to +210 here. So, yeah, I think this is a tailor-made matchup for Jake Hadley here. And I think the UFC is really trying to push this guy because they're taking Jake Hadley, a guy that has really good grappling, really good wrestling, really good cardio. The striking is definitely a work in progress, but it's that wrestling and the grappling of Hadley that really stands out to me. And they're putting him against a guy in Carlos Candelario who has some of the worst takedown defense I've ever seen in my life. He's been on the Contender Series twice, and then in the first Contender Series fight, who was it against? Was it Candido? Candido took him down like 8 times, pretty easily. And Candido kind of slowed down in the first round. And even as the fight went on, although Candido was pretty tired, he was still able to take down Candelario a ton. It was like 8 times. And then in the next fight against Altamirano, and that was the fight where he actually lost against Altamirano, very close fight. And he actually got a contract off of that loss. And even in that Altamirano fight, Altamirano was able to take him down several times. So, and then Tatsuro Taira obviously was able to knock him down and then take him down a couple times as well. So, yeah, the takedown defense is a big problem for Carlos Candelario. He is a BJJ black belt, but, I think Hadley's a great grappler in his own right. I feel like Hadley's going to be able to dictate where this fight takes place, and I think he's going to want to get it on the mat, and I think he's going to have no problem doing that. The only really concern for me with Jake Hadley is his UFC debut against Alan Nascimento. He was a pretty decent-sized favorite in that Nascimento fight. I want to double-check to see how big of a favorite he was. He was -200 in that Nascimento fight, opened up -300. But he was a big favorite because a lot of people, including me, thought he would be able to take down Nascimento, who Nascimento has a 16% takedown defense. A 16% takedown defense. So, that's kind of a concern, but I do think that, Hadley should be able to get this fight down to the mat. A gust of wind could take down Carlos Candelario, and I think he has the cardio to go to full 3 rounds. I don't see him slowing down, and he should be able to grind out a decision here. So I do like Jake Hadley to win. I think it's a really, really winnable matchup for him, and like I said, a tailor-made matchup for Jake Hadley. If he does not win this fight, there's something wrong. So give me Jake Hadley to win. Give me Jake Hadley to win by decision. Okay, Johnny Munoz going against Liudvik Sholinian. We got Johnny Munoz. He's 29 years old, 5'9", with a 71-inch reach, 11-2, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Liudvik Sholinian, he is 32 years old, 5'10", with a 71-inch reach, 9-2 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Johnny Munoz Jr. opened up a -200 favorite, currently -235. Liudvik Sholinian opened up +170. He is currently +200. So, Johnny Munoz Jr., the guy's grappling is legit. I mean, this guy's an absolute wizard on the mat. Whether it's him on top or him off of his back, the guy's legit on the mat, legit black belt. I think he's going to have a significant grappling advantage here in this matchup. And if this fight does hit the mat, whether it's, Munoz getting a takedown or whether it's Sholinian even going and getting a takedown, I think Sholinian's going to be in serious danger if this fight does hit the mat here. Liudvik Sholinian, I'm just not completely impressed with the guy. He made his debut against Jack Shore and he lost that fight. No shame in that loss whatsoever, but he was on the Ukrainian national wrestling team, so he has a wrestling background, but I don't know, his striking's not great, his wrestling's solid, his grappling's solid. He just doesn't, he doesn't really do anything that great. And this is a matchup where it's a weird matchup where on the feet, if this fight plays out on the feet, which I guess it potentially could if, Sholinian does, stuff the takedowns of Munoz and he doesn't wrestle offensively. Like, if this plays out on the feet, it's going to be a horrible fight. It's going to be probably the worst fight on the card, even worse than Vidal Pascual, if that's even possible. Because I don't think either of these guys are the best strikers. Sholinian, very low volume. Johnny Munoz, his striking's a serious work in progress. I mean, we saw in the Jamie Simmons fight, it looked like Jamie Simmons hurt him at one point. Just a terrible look there. But I kind of think this fight does hit the mat at some point. Whether it is Johnny Munoz Jr. getting the fight down to the mat, I actually don't think Munoz has the worst wrestling in the world. Munoz was able to take down Nate Maness a couple times, and when he gets on top, man, like, this guy is no joke. So I'll say Munoz does eventually get a takedown at some point. Or, Sholinian, I think he might even go for takedowns. That's what he does. He's a wrestler. I think this fight, either way, just hits the mat at some point, and when it does, Munoz is going to be very, very live for a submission, whether he's on top or off of his back. So give me the grappler and Munoz to get it done, and I'll say Munoz gets it done by second-round submission. All right, next we have Polyana Viana going against Jinh Frey. We have Viana, 30 years old, 5'5", with a 67-inch reach. She is 12-5, and she is 2-3 in her last 5 fights. Jinh Frey, she is 37 years old, 5'3", with a 65-inch reach, 11-7, and 2-3 in her last 5 fights. We have Polyana Viana opened up a -140 favorite. She's currently -129. Jinh Frey opened up +120. She is currently +109. And it's a weird fight because, Jinh Frey, I've never been high on her at all. I mean, she's 37 years old. She's extremely undersized for the strawweight division. She used to fight at atomweight. Her volume is atrocious. She doesn't throw anything. And I think her last fight against Vanessa Demopoulos was kind of the last straw. I mean, you should not be going out there and losing a 15-minute fight that played out on the feet the entire time against Vanessa Demopoulos. I mean, that's not good. And to be fair, I did think Frey won the fight, but for it to even be that close on the feet against Vanessa Demopoulos was just not a good look. She's just low volume. I don't think her cardio is the best. I'm really not a big fan of Jinh Frey, but if she's able to stuff the takedowns here, keep it on the feet, she should win this fight, I suppose. But Polyana Viana, I don't think she has the best striking. I think she's very flat-footed. She's very hittable as well. But what she's probably going to do is she's going to throw more volume, because anybody can throw more volume than Jinh Frey. And what else Viana does is she does everything in her power to get the fight down to the mat, and it's a good thing sometimes, and sometimes it's a bad thing. It's not a good thing to be stuck on your back losing minutes, and we saw that in her last fight against Tabitha Ricci. But I think there's a big difference in the grappling between one Tabitha Ricci and a Jinh Frey. We saw Jinh Frey get tapped out by Kay Hansen with an armbar in the 3rd round. But yeah, Viana, she's dangerous. She has a 100% finish rate, which is very impressive for the strawweight division. I mean, 12 wins, all 12 of them coming inside the distance. And Jinh Frey has been finished, I think, 3 times. Once by sub, a couple by knockout, but she has been finished nonetheless. And like I said, Viana is going to pull guard. She's going to get the fight down to the mat at some point, and when she does, I think she's going to be very live for the submission. But if she does not do that, which I really don't expect her to not pull guard. I mean, she pulls guard in pretty much every fight. But if she does not do that, if she wants to strike with Jinh Frey for 15 minutes, Frey should win that fight, but I don't even know. Like, Viana, she's probably going to throw more. She does hit pretty hard. I think she is improving in the striking. She's much younger, so I think she could even be very competitive on the feet as well, just because Frey does not do enough. But I do think Viana does get this fight down to the mat eventually, whether it's her, I think it's going to have to be her pulling guard or like taking the back standing. I don't see her going out there and taking down Jinh Frey. What I will say about Frey is her takedown defense is very good. She's very physically strong, very hard to take down. But that doesn't mean Viana can't, pull guard, get it down to the mat that way, which, like I said, she always does. That's kind of her thing, just pulling guard, getting the fight down to the mat, getting the fight down to her world. And she's super dangerous off the mat. Very good arm bars, triangles. And I kind of see her catching Jinh Frey at some point in this fight. I think the fight does hit the mat, and I think Polyana Viana submits Jinh Frey, and I'll probably say it's in the 1st round. So give me Polyana Viana to win. Give me Viana to win by 1st round submission. Moving on, we have Mario Bautista going against Benito Lopez. We have Mario Bautista, who is 29 years old, 5'9", with a 69-inch reach. He is 10-2 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Benito Lopez, he is 28 years old, 5'10", with a 73-inch reach, 10-1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here. We see that Mario Bautista is a big favorite, opened up -260, currently -290. Benito Lopez opened up +220, currently +250. So this was the first fight I looked into for this week, and I looked into it last week, and I was looking through the card, doing my stats, and I see Benito Lopez is on the card. I'm like, Benito Lopez? That guy has not fought in a long time. I'm like, man, the last time that guy fought was when I went on a cruise, and that cruise was like three or so years ago. But yeah, he's on the card, so I go to check his Instagram, and I'm like, what has this guy been up to? And then I see that, he's became a realtor, and a light bulb kind of went off in my head. Realtors, and we saw what happened to the last realtor in Ally Quinta. Ally Quinta got finished in the very first round. So, realtors have not had a ton of success in the UFC, but in all seriousness, like, that's kind of weird to me. This is a guy that has not fought in 3 years and 2 months. 3 years and 2 months, and since then, he's had no fights booked. Since then, he's a guy that used to train at Team Alpha Male. Honestly, I'm not even sure if he's trained at if he's training at Team Alpha Male as of now, because I went to check his Instagram, like the last picture of him at Team Alpha Male was like 3 years ago. So I'm not even sure he's at Team Alpha Male. I'm not sure what he's been doing in the last 3 years. Like I said, he's became a realtor, and he doesn't look to be in the best shape. I don't know what's going on with this guy. Just kind of a weird situation here for Benito Lopez. And the thing is, like, he's only 28 years old. Last time he fought, he was 25. So typically you'd like to expect improvements from the guy, but over these last 3 years, has he been getting better, or has he been selling houses? I mean, I just don't know. So just a weird situation here with Benito Lopez, which on the other side with Mario Bautista, I mean, this is a guy that, he's getting better, and we're seeing that he's getting better. This is a guy that he's training at a really good gym and MMA lab. He's really rounding out his game as well. I mean, he's a BJJ brown belt now. He's a guy that can wrestle very well. He's completing takedowns at over 60%, and he just went out there and ran through Brian Kelleher, which that's not easy. Brian Kelleher is a veteran of the sport, a very tough guy, and he walked right through Brian Kelleher like it was nothing. This is a step down for Mario Bautista, and this is honestly a step up for Benito Lopez, and it's a fight where Lopez has not fought in 3 years. I'm not sure what's going on here. It's a weird fight, but I like Mario Bautista here to win. I think on the feet, Benito Lopez is very wild and reckless, and I think at least early on he might have success. He might catch Mario Bautista off guard with some things. He's very tricky, tall, lengthy fighter to deal with, but that 3-year layoff, I don't think he's in the best shape. I'm curious to see him at the weigh-ins to see if he even makes weight as well. But yeah, I mean, I think at least early on, Lopez could have some success, but as the fight goes on, we know Mario Bautista is going to have the better cardio, absolutely. Mario Bautista does not slow down. And I also think Mario Bautista has a path to victory in terms of mixing in the takedowns. We saw Steven Peterson have success mixing in takedowns against Benito Lopez on the Contender Series years ago. It was so long, like 5 years ago. And then we also saw Bermudez take down Lopez and submit him shortly after. So I think Bautista can have success on the feet here, especially as the fight goes on. And I think Bautista can have success pushing Benito Lopez against the cage, using that physicality, and then also getting the fight down to the mat, using that BJJ brown belt, and winning some minutes down there as well. So I do like Bautista to win here. I could see Bautista winning by really knockout, submission, or decision. I'm going to say second round submission, though, for Mario Bautista. I think he gets Benito Lopez out of there after that, a very exciting first round. I think the first round is going to be very fun and exciting. I just don't trust Benito Lopez to be able to keep up that pace across 3 rounds. So give me Mario Bautista to win. Mario Bautista to win by second round sub. Moving on. Miranda Maverick going against Shanna Younng, the Shanimal. We have Miranda Maverick. She is 25 years old, 5'3", with a 65.5-inch reach. She is 10-4 and 3-2 in her last 5 fights. Shanna Younng, she is 31 years old, 5'7", 65-inch reach, 8-4 and 2-3 in her last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here. Miranda Maverick, the biggest favorite on the card, opened at -300 for some reason. Currently -650. Shanna Younng opened at +250. She is currently +475. And yeah, these fighters were supposed to fight each other like a month ago or so, like a month and a half ago. I think it was the card where Usman knocked out Leon Edwards, forget which, I think maybe 269, something like that. But either way, these two fighters were supposed to fight each other. And Shanna Younng pulled out. She had something like problems making weight or something, and she ended up in the hospital. Honestly, I'm shocked they rebooked this fight. I mean, we really don't need to see this fight, but I guess it's a good way to kind of get Miranda Maverick back on track, get her another nice win here, and just move her up in the rankings a little bit, I guess. Just kind of showcase spot for Miranda Maverick, if anything. We've already seen this fight. We've seen this fight a couple years ago. Miranda Maverick did go out there and submit Shanna Younng in Invicta in the very first round. And since then, you could say that Shanna Younng has made some improvements, and I agree with that. But you also have to say that the very young Miranda Maverick, who is only 25 years old now, made some improvements since then as well. I mean, it's a tough matchup for Shanna Younng. On the feet, I favor Miranda Maverick. I think she's the much better striker. And then on the mat, it's Maverick all day, and it's not even close. I mean, seeing Shanna Younng getting taken down and submitted by one Sarah Alpar is just something I can't get out of my head. Seeing Miranda Maverick take down Shanna Younng, submit her shortly after, can't get that out of my head. And then seeing a Stephanie Ager take down Shanna Younng and dominate her. I mean, she doesn't have anything off the mat. I think her takedown defense is solid, but once Maverick does get that takedown, get on top. I think that's all she wrote. So I like Maverick to win here. I like Maverick to win inside the distance, and I'm going to take Maverick to win by, once again, first round submission. All right, next we have, this is probably my favorite fight on the card. I like this fight a lot. We got Derrick Minner going against Shayilan Nuerdanbieki. We got Shayilan. He is 28 years old, 5'8" with a 69-inch reach. He is 37-10 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Derrick Minner, 32 years old, 5'7" with a 71-inch reach, 26-13 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Shayilan Nuerdanbieki opened up -200, currently -194. Derrick Minner opened up +170, currently +169. And I think this is a very, very winnable matchup for one Derrick Minner. And Derrick Minner is a guy that is kill or be killed. This is a guy in Derrick Minner who has finished 89% of his wins out of 39 fights, which the guy has like 26 submission wins, like something crazy like that. I mean, the guy is insane on the mat. And then, Derrick Minner's been finished 11 times, 8 of them by submission. So he's definitely a kill or be killed type fighter, but it's weird. Derrick Minner, since he's got to the UFC, since he's been training with James Krause, we kind of see a different version of Derrick Minner, a guy that can go 3 rounds, which is weird. He went 3 rounds with Charles Rosa, won that fight by decision. And what was kind of interesting to me is a guy that has been submitted 8 times did not get submitted by Ryan Hall. And it was weird because Ryan Hall attempted 7 different submissions at least in that fight. And Derrick Minner was able to fight out of all of those, which is very interesting there. But yeah, I think his cardio is improving. His fight IQ is improving a little bit with James Krause. I think Krause is, really turning the corner with Derrick Minner here. I think Minner's improved a lot of things. But, Shayilan Nuerdanbieki, this is a guy that has been, I don't know, a little bit underrated in the UFC. I cashed on him as a really big dog against Sean Soriano, where he was able to take Sean Soriano down 4 times. And he was another dog against TJ Brown. He was able to win that fight as well. But take a look at Shayilan Nuerdanbieki. This is a guy that you could also classify as a killer be killed fighter in a way, but more so outside the UFC. I mean, since he's been to the UFC, he's been a decisionator, but, outside the UFC, he was finishing a lot of people. But we got to kind of remind ourselves that, it was not the best competition for Shayilan there. He's going out there and submitting like very, very questionable guys on the Chinese regional scene. So, and he was getting finished by those same guys as well. I mean, Shayilan Nuerdanbieki has been finished 8 times and 6 times by submission. I think that's the key here. He's been submitted 6 times, and I went and watched, pretty much all those submission losses. I mean, it's not a good look. Like, he was getting tapped out by like 0-0 guys at time. I mean, 0-1 guy. It was just a very, very bad look to me, seeing him getting tapped out that much by very, very low-level guys. And in the UFC, he's attempted 0 submissions. 0 submissions. And his opponents have attempted a good amount of submissions, including TJ Brown attempted like 4, and Brown had him in some very bad spots on the mat as well. Minner's no joke on the mat. I mean, Minner's went out there, he's submitted guys like Terrence McKinney, he submitted TJ Laramie in his debut as well. He has some pretty solid wins on his record, and he's going to be very dangerous early on. It's just the problem with Minner is he going to be able to keep that up for 3 rounds, or really does he need to? I think if Derrick Minner wins this fight, it is going to be by sub, and it's going to be by early submission as well. So I think Minner's a super live dog here. I think Nuerdanbieki has been submitted a ton. Nuerdanbieki has put himself into a lot of bad spots, and he is fighting the most dangerous grappler to date in Derrick Minner. I mean, TJ Brown's a good grappler, but I think Derrick Minner is much more dangerous. Sean Soriano, I think, is a black belt, but he's not submitting anybody. I think Derrick Minner is going to have multiple opportunities to find that first round submission, and I think he gets it. So I'm going to take Derrick Minner to win by first round sub. If it does get extended, it could get ugly. Minner could gas out, but like I said, Minner's gas tank has not looked as bad as it has in the past. So I think he's making some serious improvements and adjustments in his game. So I like Minner to win here, and I will take him to win by first round submission. Okay, next we have probably the highest level fight on the card here. We have Grant Dawson going against Mark Madsen. We have Dawson, who is 28 years old, 5'10", with a 72-inch reach, 18-1-1, and 4-0-1 in his last 5 fights. Mark Madsen, 38 years old, 5'10", with a 72-inch reach, 12-0, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here. Grant Dawson opened up -150, currently -225. Mark Madsen opened up +130, currently +190. Grant Dawson is stepping in on somewhat short notice here. This was a fight that was supposed to happen For UFC Vegas 63, Dawson apparently said that he would not have been able to make weight by then, so they moved it to this card, UFC Vegas 64, but I'm glad they did. This is a really good fight, and I'm looking forward to seeing it here. And I think it's a close fight. I think the line is pretty off here. I see this being a close fight. I think Mark Madsen's getting a little bit disrespected here. Obviously has that Olympic caliber wrestling. I think in terms of, wrestling credentials, it's Madsen here. In terms of the grappling, you got to favor Grant Dawson, but Madsen has some good grappling in his own right. And then it's the striking, though, that really stuck out to me for really both guys in different ways. Like Mark Madsen's striking is very good. He's made a ton of improvements in his striking. He's now training at Fight Ready MMA, and he went out there against Clay Guida in a fight where everybody thought he was going to try to take down Guida, and he didn't. 0 takedowns against Guida, and he actually went out there and outlanded Guida 98-72. And even in the Pichel fight, he was having a lot of success on the feet early as well. I think his striking is very solid and improving, whereas Grant Dawson, his striking is very much so a work in progress. It's getting better as well, but I just think Mark Madsen is the better striker in this matchup. And then I'm just kind of trying to figure out how this fight's going to play out stylistically. Is Grant Dawson going to try to take down the Olympic caliber wrestler in Mark Madsen? If he does that, is he going to have success? Is he going to tire himself out? And on the flip side, I think Mark Madsen can take down Dawson, but I could also see a situation where Mark Madsen kind of looks a little bit like the Guida fight, where he's going out there and just outstriking Grant Dawson. I think he'd absolutely do that. Grant Dawson is very, very hittable on the feet. And like I said, I think Madsen at this point in their careers is the better striker. Dawson, 45% strike and defense, very hittable. So, yeah, I think it's a very winnable matchup for Mark Madsen. I don't know what I'm missing here. I think, this line is off by a mile. I guess maybe Dawson can maybe take Madsen's back and submit him, and he is the better grappler, but he's going to have to get the fight down to the mat for that to happen, and I don't know if he's taking down and holding down Mark Madsen. So, I'm going to pick the pretty big upset here with Mark Madsen. I'm going to take him to win by decision, keeping this on the feet, mixing in a takedown here or there, stuffing the takedowns of Grant Dawson, and just being the better striker. So, give me Madsen for the pretty big upset. I guess the one concern is the cardio of Madsen, but it's looked a lot better as of late. It looked much better in the Guida fight. I think he's managing his cardio much better, and I think that's all because of Fight Ready. And then also in the Pichel fight, his cardio looked much better, was able to win the third round, mixing in takedowns in that round as well. And again, Dawson's coming in on short notice, so how's his cardio going to look like? So give me a Mark Madsen to win. I think it's going to be a very close fight, but I do lean the Madsen side. Okay, Tagir Ulanbekov going against Nate Maness. We have Ulanbekov, 31 years old, 5'7" with a 70-inch reach, 13-2 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Nate Maness, 31 years old, 5'10" with a 72-inch reach, 14-12 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here. Ulanbekov opened up as a minus 180 favorite. He's currently minus 212. Nate Maness opened up plus 155. He is currently plus 182. And I can't stand Nate Maness. And for the reasons you might not Nate Maness is a guy that I just can't get right. I just continue to lose money betting on this guy's fights. I had the under in the Nurmagomedov fight. I had Tony Gravely, and I was very confident in Tony Gravely, and Gravely freaking knocks him out in the first round. The dude comes back to life in the second, and he knocks out Gravely himself. I had Luke Sanders, and Luke Sanders was clearly winning the first round, and then Luke Sanders fashion, he drops the ball, and the second gets clipped and choked out. And then in the Johnny Munoz fight, I love Johnny Munoz in that fight, and I thought Johnny Munoz won the fight, or at the very least, it was a draw. But Nate Maness just keeps stealing my money, so I'm probably not going to stay far away from this fight, but it's another matchup where I'm extremely confident in the other side. I like Tagir Ulanbekov a lot. I know Nate Maness is going to be a very popular dog this week because Tagir Ulanbekov dropped the ball against Tim Elliott, but this is a completely different matchup. Nate Maness's takedown defense is good, but I don't think his get-up game's there at all. I think his get-up game is actually non-existent. And we saw it in the Umar Nurmagomedov fight, and you can't take too much in that fight. It's Umar Nurmagomedov who's much better than Tagir, but we've seen it in other fights where he's getting taken down and he can't get back up. And I think that's going to be the case here. Tagir might struggle a little bit to take Nate Maness down, but once he finally takes him down, I think Tagir has the grappling, the control to keep him there for the rest of the round. On the feet, of course, you have to worry about that power of Nate Maness, but I don't see this playing out on the feet a lot. So I like Tagir here to win. But again, I'm staying away from this fight. Maness is a guy that just keeps pulling off these wins. Maybe he does it here, but I do like Tagir a decent amount. So one big thing to mention about this fight is it's going to be taking place at flyweight, which is a massive red flag to me on the Nate Maness side. Nate Maness is huge at bantamweight, and now he's cutting an extra 10 pounds. I would like to see Maness on the scales. I don't know if he's going to make that weight because Nate Maness is a guy that's fought at 155. He has multiple fights at 145, and now all of a sudden, for the first time in his career, at 31 years old, he's going to make flyweight. Yeah, I got to see this, but how's that going to affect his cardio? How's that going to affect his performance? That is a big weight cut. The guy's huge, and Tagir's huge. Tagir's huge for flyweight, and Nate Maness is going to have like a 3-inch height advantage. So, yeah, we're going to have to see the scales on this one, but I do like Tagir to get it done. And the fact that Nate Maness is cutting down to flyweight makes me like him that much more. But again, Nate Maness, he has those ways of kind of just pulling the win out somehow. So like Gravely, he was losing until he won. Johnny Munoz, I thought he lost, but he won. Luke Sanders, he was losing until he won. So we'll see what happens here, but I do like Tagir to get it done. I'll say Tagir by decision. Oh boy. Next we have Josh Parisian going against Chase Sherman. We got Chase Sherman, 32 years old, 6'4", with a 78-inch reach, 16-10, and 1-4 in his last 5 fights. Josh Parisian, 33 years old, 6'4", 79-inch reach, 15-5, and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds, even though nobody should be betting on this fight. We have Chase Sherman open up plus 125. He's currently minus 132. Josh Parisian opened up minus 145, currently plus 112. I don't have much to say about this fight. Both these guys are the lowest of lowest level of heavyweight. This could be the battle of the worst heavyweight because, I thought it was Ulanbekov, but I think Bado's been cut. And then I think it was Jared Vanderaa, but I think Jared Vanderaa has been cut. If not, he's getting cut very soon. So this could be the battle of the worst heavyweight. And both guys are just very, very low level. Like on the feet, both guys are walking punching bags. Both guys are very sloppy. Both guys have solid power. On the feet, it's going to be a sloppy, greasy, heavyweight type fight. But I think the biggest difference in this fight is the ground game. Josh Parisian, when he's able to get the fight down to the mat, very good top control, very good ground and pound. I think if Josh Parisian gets his fight down to the mat once, he wins the fight. The problem is going to have to be just getting it there. Chase Sherman, his takedown defense is solid, but Chase Sherman off of his back is just a fish out of water. We saw Jake Collier go out there and just run through Chase Sherman on the mat. Jake Collier, another very low-level heavyweight. But, if Josh Parisian's able to get this fight down to the mat just once, the fight's going to be over shortly after. So, really flip a coin on this one. Who knows? Who cares, really? But I'm going to take the dog here in Josh Parisian. I feel like this should be a pick'em. I feel like this is another one of those fights where I feel like nobody deserves to be favored in it. And I'm going to take Josh Parisian to go out there, pull off the slight upset, take the fight down to the mat, and pound Chase Sherman out. But nothing would surprise me in this fight, and I will have $0 on it. Moving on. Neil Magny going against Daniel Rodriguez. Solid co-main event here. We got Neil Magny, 35 years old, 6'3" with an 80-inch reach, 26-9, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Daniel Rodriguez, 35 years old, 6'1", with a 74-inch reach, 17-2, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. We have about to pick him here. Neil Magny open up minus 125, currently minus 115. Daniel Rodriguez open up plus 105, currently minus 105. I kind of want to see Daniel Rodriguez on the scale in his last fight against the Leech. I believe that fight was at 180 or 185. So this is going to be at 170 here. And Daniel Rodriguez is coming off some type of injury. He had to pull out of the Neil Magny fight, which I thought was weird because Daniel Rodriguez doesn't really strike me as the guy to really pull out of things, but it must have been something pretty serious there. I think it might have been like a staph infection or something like that. I think it was like something with his wrist as well. So he had a couple things going on, I think, for D-Rod. So that's kind of a concern because that was like a month ago when I think he was supposed to fight Neil Magny, like a month or less ago. So I don't know if it's the correct time off or anything, but I think it's a very close fight, and the line does indicate that. You have Neil Magny who's going to have a pretty big height and reach advantage. He's going to have a 6-inch reach advantage, but I think on the feet, it's Daniel Rodriguez all day. I think he's going to have a significant speed advantage. I love the striking of D-Rod, the volume of D-Rod, and I think for Neil Magny to win, he's going to have to go out there and make it a grinding fight and kind of grind it out, push D-Rod against the cage, potentially take him down, and I just don't really see Magny having a ton of success doing that. Daniel Rodriguez is very physically strong. He's a BJJ black belt. I think he's going to be able to stuff the takedowns easily. I think that's easy, stuffing the takedowns here. And then in terms of Magny holding him against the cage, which I think Magny's going to have to do, I don't know if he's going to be able to do that. I think Rodriguez is going to be able to reverse position and just keep it at range for the most part. And when he does, I feel like he's going to have the advantage on the feet there. But again, the things that worry me are, the injuries of Daniel Rodriguez. I don't know what's going on with him. I want to see him weigh in as well. I'm not sure why the Leach fight, or it was supposed to be D-Rod versus Holland. I'm not sure why that fight was like at 180 or 185. So we'll have to see him weigh in and stuff. And if he's looking good, maybe I'll have a little more confidence in him. But yeah, I think it's a winnable fight for D-Rod. So I'm going to take D-Rod to win. I'll take D-Rod to win by decision. All right, next we have the main event. We have Amanda Lemos going against Marina Rodriguez. We got Rodriguez, 35 years old, 5'6", with a 65-inch reach, 16-1-2, and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Amanda Lemos, 35 years old, 5'4", with a 65-inch reach, 12-2, and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here. Marina Rodriguez opened up a -150 favorite, currently -220. And we have Lemos opening at +130. She is currently +185. And this kind of reminds me a little bit of the Alexa Grasso, Viviane Araújo breakdown, where it's the cardio for me. I think the cardio is the biggest factor. And honestly, Araújo looked pretty good in terms of the cardio, but I don't know if the same thing's going to happen here for Lemos. Lemos, she's a fighter who is all power. She puts a lot into those shots, very physically strong, good grappler. She has a lot of good tools. It's just the cardio that concerns me in a 5-round fight. Like, I feel like in a 3-round fight, she would be able to mix in the wrestling here, the grappling. But if she does that here, I think that could be a mistake. I think she's going to gas out if she grapples. On top of that, Marina Rodriguez, she's improved her takedown defense and her ground game as a whole in general just a lot over the past couple of years. I mean, that's something she's really struggled with. So I don't think Lemos is going to be able to grapple here, at least not for 5 rounds. If she does early, she's going to gas out for sure. I know that. But even in general, like in the Angela Hill fight, she came out strong. She knocked down Hill, almost finished her, and then she's gassed out in the 2nd round, loses the 2nd round against Hill. 3rd round is up in the air, flip a coin. I personally scored the fight for Angela Hill, but she's getting tired in the 2nd and 3rd round of some fights. What's she going to look like in a 4th and 5th round against a killer in Marina Rodriguez? You go back to the Leslie Smith fight, which was years ago. It was up 2 weight classes at 135, but still just not a good look. I mean, getting finished by Leslie Smith. I think she has improved a lot since then, obviously. I think her cardio's improved a lot since then, obviously. But I still have question marks about this fight if it gets to that 4th and 5th round. So I think Lemos, at least early on, can be very competitive. I think she can land some hard shots here, maybe hurt Rodriguez early. But as the fight goes on, it's Rodriguez all day for me. I think Rodriguez is going to have the better cardio. In that 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th round should all probably go to Rodriguez. But Lemos is going to be live early. Lemos has a ton of first-round finishes. Not only in her career, but in the UFC, she has first-round finishes, but not against the best competition in the world. So I do like Marina Rodriguez here to win. I like her to win by finish. I think she finishes a tired Lemos in that 3rd or 4th round. So I like Rodriguez here. I'm going to say 4th round knockout for Marina Rodriguez. Lemos is a live dog, at least early on, but no way I can pick her with that cardio. In a 3-round fight, maybe. In a 5-round fight, no way. I'm not picking Lemos. I don't trust her cardio. Never seen a 4th round. I think that's going to change this fight, and I don't know if she's going to be able to hold up in those later rounds. So I like Rodriguez here to win. I'm going to take her to win by 4th round knockout. But yeah, should be an interesting fight. All right, guys, we did it. Went through all 12 fights. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys have not already, be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Also going live Friday, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time after the weigh-ins, and then live once again Saturday, 1 hour prior to the prelims. You can follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers. Instagram is DFS by the numbers. And yeah, guys, should be a very, very good card to watch. Maybe not to bet on. Like I said, I do have 2 or 3 bets, but going to keep it pretty light this week, honestly. It's another sketchy card, just like last week. But next week we have UFC 281, so that's going to be cool. But yeah, guys, best of luck. Let's keep it going, and we'll talk to you guys very soon. See you later.